Hey, coffee experts. Those of you running independent coffee shops, you're always looking for ways that you can drop your costs. And we here at the Coffee Experts Club really understand that. And so we've started something called Indie Coffee Coalition. And what it's designed to do is to drop your costs on two of the things that you're probably experiencing the highest sales volume in your store. And that is energy drink and frat mix. Those two line items, we've created our own products and are offering you those products at a reduced cost so that you can cut out the Red Bull of America. You can cut out the main lines of energy drinks that you're doing and serve your own energy drink at a reduced cost on a line item that you're probably already making a lot of sales on anyway. The best way that you can grow sales is by dropping your costs and maintaining a current volume. So check us out at indiecoffee.co and we'll love to tell you more there.
Welcome to the Coffee Experts Club, where we discuss all of the insights, expertise, and drama that goes into making your passion your profession. Our hosts, Aaron, Ben, and Drew, are three coffee experts who have taken their coffee experience and turned it into true expertise. They have consulted with major coffee brands throughout the United States and beyond, providing operations expertise and growth strategy for drive-through openings, multiple locations, and everything in between. So brew yourself a cup and hang out a bit with the Coffee Experts Club.
Good day. That's right. Coffee Experts Club. What's going on, Drew Moody?
Another day in paradise.
Another day in paradise. That's right. We were just talking about sometimes you get stuck in paradise. You're hoping to get some time back here in the States, but man, twist my arm. I got to stay a couple more days in Belize.
No, it's a blessing and a curse.
Let's be honest. Like every place becomes common, right? You're in Belize. People dream to go to Belize. People put it on their bucket list. I just one day hope I get to go to Belize. People go to Belize and they're like, I can't wait till the next time I go back to Belize. But you're like, I live in Belize every single day. And I kind of wanted to go see my family in the Pacific Northwest, right?
It would have been nice. Yeah, man, not to say I'm not grateful. Every day I wake up and I'm super grateful, but when just the way that it happened was not, I stuck at the airport for 9 hours is never a fun thing. Uncommon. I've never had that happen to me. I've flown dozens of times, so I can't be too bent out of shape about it. It was probably one of the lucky ones that I had somewhere to come back to instead of staying at some hotel.
Yeah, I get it still. Well, man, we've been in the middle of something, Drew, that I felt like would be a benefit to talk to our listeners about today. And that is starting a new location. Like everybody dreams about a new location, right? You put aside money for new location. You can't wait till it comes. I know in the States, it's super pricey. In Belize, like we've found a really cool niche on how we're growing our own coffee business. We've opened, we've talked about in the past, like location number 1 paid for half of location number 2. Location number 1 and 2, we're going to pay for all of location number 3 because we have to do everything cash. Belize is a much different place, but man, we've been really blessed with how the coffee business has been going there. But new locations bring their own level of stress, right? Like obviously new location means you're going to have to bring in all the new machines. You're going to have to hire a whole new set of staff. But even before you get there, you have the building process. And I thought we could talk today, because you and I are in the middle of building process, about the pros and cons, the benefits, or maybe just the best practices of, hey, if you're going to build something, this is what you want to be thinking of before you're in the building process. Because once you're in the building process, it's already a little bit too late, right? Because you're under live fire. So how can you best prepare to get there? What do you think about talking about that a little today?
Yeah, I think it's great. One thing, not to pat ourselves on the back, I think since 2015 or so, we haven't taken more than a year off from opening a new location, be it for ourselves or for roasters or for one of our clients. Every year, and sometimes 2 a year for roasters, we've dealt with the things that come with it, the goods and the bads and the refinements. So, the building process, which we'll focus on a little bit today, it's unique every time. But there's the reason it's unique every time, hopefully, is because you learn, and one thing that we have had the benefit of doing here is learning what didn't work. We took a year, just over a year in between the build out of our previous location and this one, which wasn't the plan. But in the year, we had these, what has kind of been annoying to us, or what have been comments and questions from, our regulars, or, what is some input that the tourists might have for us, and, just compiling all of those things and working with our contractor. We were using the same gentleman who built the first one, and, what was it that were pain points for him? Was it what part of the process was he working with the city, which is always a pain point, and no matter where you are, Belize or the States, no matter what city you're in, or bringing in certain materials, and how early do we need to order those things? So, all of the accumulation of the when we meet after a grand opening and we go through a checklist of what was it that was hard, what was it that we did well, How can we improve on XYZ amounts to, I mean, these processes have been pretty smooth for us, but even still, we're going to run into things that we don't expect.
Yeah. So I would say this, like probably to start this whole conversation before we get too deep, we're going to go into all of it today. Construction, like good, the bad, the ugly, like where you want to start, where you want to be in the middle, where you want to end up. A lot of the things around building a location. But what I would say for all of you listening right now, if you're thinking about starting a coffee business, you're going to be doing this at some point. If you're already in the middle of a coffee business, you've been doing it and you're like, man, this thing is a cluster. How do I keep it not be such a cluster? I would say, we offer a free new location checklist, on any of our socials. If you want to jump in and just request that, just say, drop and say, hey, could I get your new location checklist? We'd love to send that out to you for free. But also, we do a masterclass around this very thing where we spend 3 different hours, 1 hour each on each one of the topics we're going to deep dive into today. One of them is like choosing location. So, my first drive through coffee, if you want to go check out the free masterclass, doesn't cost you a thing. We just give you free education. So, if you're looking for the new location checklist, drop in the socials, any of our messengers, and then also check out my first drive through coffee because I think it's really a blessing. So, Drew, I would say starting with a plan is the first thing, right? That checklist, you and I were just reviewing our checklist this last week, going through it line by line, assigning it out to people. The nice thing about our smart sheet is it's all built around real world live fire grand openings, dozens and dozens and dozens of times rolled out. So it's battle tested on. It's going to take about 3 weeks to get this part done. It's going to take about 6 weeks to get this part done. This part, you better freaking turn it this week because it's going to be a pain in the ass if you don't deal with it in the right amount of time. I think that starting with the checklist is first thing, right? Because that's going to educate you on what the conversations you're having. But then part of the checklist is going to be choosing your contractor and who you're going to bring in. And I feel like Daryl, from San Pedro Yard Guys has been a great guy for us to partner with. And the thing that I love most about Daryl is honestly, and this, if you're keying in on just one thing, I would say the thing that I love most about Daryl is what he says he's going to do, he does.
Mhm.
I think that that's a big deal. You want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's priceless, especially because navigation through all of the processes of permitting and who you need to know and how you need to get there. That's not anything we do. I mean, it's what we do every time, but it's not what we do for a living. So Daryl has been great with, he knows a guy, right? And hopefully
Yeah.
in every step of the way, whoever you're working with in your city for your permits. And I mean, maybe that's some of the conversation you have in the beginning with whoever you're contracting with is kind of how does the process work? Have they done these kind of builds before? Are they familiar with the departments that they're going to have to go through? Because if you're building for residential, it's very different than building for commercial. The zoning, if you're building near residential, all these things can pile up. I know one of the ones that we did in Reno revolved heavily around how is this going to affect, the people living next door to the store. How are the lights going to sit on the building? Are there going to be external
Right.
speakers? What are the hours of operation? What kinds of lights are we using? With Daryl, back to the contractor conversation, he's helped us figure out a lot of things. He's helped us see around the corner to things that we didn't expect, things we didn't know. And so often it happens. If it's, I mean, it's here, that's new for us, but in the US, it's policy changes or like I mentioned, zoning changes you just never know until you get into it. And sometimes having a contractor that is well versed and knows the guy, not sometimes, every time, that's going to benefit you.
Yeah, I would say too, like, I know most people going to a building contractor thinking to themselves, how can I get it done as cheaply as possible? Right? Like everybody's like, how do I keep it cheap? How do I keep it cheap? I would advocate for send out, and we offer you this in our smart sheet, like a bid package of what you're going to push out to several different contractors and let them come back to you. Apples for apples. You're giving everybody the same tools and then see what they bring you back. And I know for Daryl, like we pushed it out to several different guys when we first started our process. And what Daryl brought me back impressed me to the point that I'm like, this is somebody that I'm going to want to use. So pay attention with what comes back because this should be the easiest part of the process, right? Like them getting you back to a number. And I'll tell you right now, I don't think Daryl was the cheapest one we got back, but how thorough he was and how he gave us his answers back was what I'm like, I want to key in with this guy. I want to lean into this guy. So I would say like pricing is important, but it's not the only thing. If you pay for cheap, you're going to get a lesser product. I remember when we were doing a lot of these buildings with roasters back in the day where we first started, you and I both started with an indie coffee company from the Tri-Cities of Washington called Roasters Coffee. I grew with them from like 5 locations up to 15 in a roastery, right? So we built like 10 buildings over the course of like 5 or 6 or 7 years in that course. So we're building them fast, building them a lot. And Wes, the owner of that, sometimes had the tendency of going with a contractor out of that area that I knew was cheap, but the results that I got from him, because I was the one that was going to have to manage the construction process, the dude was a pain in the ass, man. Like it just, The stuff he came back to me was half baked. He didn't want to have consistent meetings with me. His timelines always got skewed. It always was a frustration point. So yeah, we paid a cheap amount for it, but we got a pretty poor product from it. And yeah, it always turned out fine in the end. And that was what Wes would always say. Well, hey man, it always turns out good, but the pain of it and the timeline of it, that all costs you something. And if you're trying to open something in succession, like I just had a conversation with a client that we're doing a grand opening for coming up in just a month or so. Like he's in the middle of a building process that's just a pain in the ass. And the problem is he's not in control of the timeline. So I think that as you think about who you're going to use, like the two best things I would say to you is push out multiple proposal. Make sure your bid request, your request for proposal (RFP) is the same that you're pushing out to everybody, so that you get an apples for apples comparison when they come back. Choose somebody that seems like they're paying attention to detail. Don't always go for the cheapest guy. Go for the one that brings back the best answers, and then do a little bit of recon on, hey, let's get some referrals on this guy. Because is he doing what he says he's going to do is very, very important, because otherwise you're going to be in the middle of things with this guy. And maybe he was really detailed, but he doesn't always show up the way he said he was going to. And then your project is just going to be drug out for a year. We were in one that 2 years, 2 years we were in a building project with somebody because it just got drug out and drug out and drug out and drug out. And it was like, oh my gosh, we're talking about a 900 square foot stand for doing coffee. How are we 2 years into a process? But I promise you, timelines run away on you.
Oh, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Daryl was never defensive, and that's what you can get a lot of the time with people who are going to drag things out because I think they're unsure. That's where the defensiveness comes from is, how much did I fluff these numbers up? How honest am I being in these numbers? If you're not allowed to ask questions, it's going to be a painful building process.
Yeah. I think another secret to the sauce that I would lean into is once you've chosen your guy, right? You've gone through the bid process. You've identified this is a good guy. You're coming into the contracts that you're all going to sign. Come up with dates of expectations. Like you should have some type of schedule tied to your building project. The thing I love about Daryl is before we get into a contract with him, we already know when he's going to be done. And there's some flex. Like we're not hard asses, but for me, like I'm going to incentivize Daryl to finish early because I want to get into the place, right? I'm going to start paying for this lease soon. Like, get me into the place, start making money. And he wants it off of him, right? Like, he's going to only be able to pick up more and more contracts the faster he's going to turn it. So decide how long it's going to take, incentivize them to finish early, and then hold them accountable if they're not going to finish on time. Like, hey, if you don't finish, Daryl and I have had really honest conversations. If you go longer than what we've talked about, I'm going to start charging you by the day for every day that we go longer. So let's make sure we all hit our goals. I'd love to send you and your wife off on a great family vacation if you finish early. I'm going to bonus you out for that. And if you don't, you might end up sending me on a family vacation because I'm going to charge you on the days behind it. So just have a really honest conversation about timelines. And then I'd also say this is, or maybe Drew, do you have something you want to say to that? Because I don't want to keep going.
It's good.
Yeah, I'd say the next thing I would say is really, really important is just establish a weekly check-in time. Every week we meet. So with Daryl, every week we meet on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. We just meet that time every single week. And every single week we pull up and this is the things Daryl said would get done this week. Did they get done this week? If they didn't get done this week, what's that going to do to the schedule? And how's he feeling where things are at? Because if you set up a consistent weekly check-in where they have to give you answers on everything they're doing, I would say Daryl's great with pictures, right? Gives us pictures of where we're at in the progress, talks about it the next time we meet. He can raise questions there are always questions, but if you don't set up a consistent cadence, what happens is you start losing threads of detail. And then it turns out some way that you didn't want it to, or there's slippage in the timeline, the schedule that you didn't want to experience. I cannot tell you how much value is in just a weekly meeting, half hour, doesn't have to be anything crazy, where you can just simply check in and say, hey, are we on schedule? Do you have any pain points? Have things come up that we need to get you answers on? Oh, you need those finish items from us. We have to get you those lighting fixtures. We have to get you those choices on the colors. Oh, we have to get you that flooring decision. Like, let's get all those things ironed out. A weekly meeting is the best way to handle that.
Well, it avoids tensions building, the tension of uncertainty on your end of other things are happening, and then the tension of having to make decisions in the dark on their end. Because ultimately, on a job site, there's going to be split decisions or momentary decisions of, how should I proceed with the way this is shaped, or how high the drive-through window needs to be. We have that here because it's golf carts, so having those weekly calls, I mean, they move pretty fast here, which and God bless them, but it allows us to catch things before they become problems.
Yeah. So once again, just to recap, Find a guy that's going to give you good details, right? Don't necessarily choose the cheapest guy. Choose the guy that comes back with the best answers. Make sure you get good referrals that this guy does what he says he's going to do. Super, super important. Start setting up a weekly cadence and an expectation of timelines. Super critical. I'd say one of the other things that is probably the most important thing, whether it's partners like Drew and I, or it's a partner that you're partnering with on building a building for you, is mutual respect. Like, show up with lots of generosity and love and mutual respect, because there are going to be points where things are going to get heated, right? There's going to be timeline misunderstandings. There's going to be frustration points. But if you can come with just that understanding of, hey, listen, and I would say set the framework for this from the get go, from the first call. Hey, I just want you to know, man, tons of love back and forth between us, tons of respect back and forth between us. I know you know things, contractor, that I don't know. I know things that you can't know because this is my business. It's especially business that I know. But we're going to come into this thing understanding there are going to be times where we're going to probably hit friction points. It's okay. I might get a little hot and bothered. You might get a little hot and bothered, but let's always just decide that we both want the same outcome, which is this project done well, this project done on time, this project done in a way you get paid and I get my result. So let's not throw our hands up in the air and scream and yell. Like, listen, owners, let's just be honest. Sometimes you can be a dick. Like, that's just true. Like, you can show up to a meeting and you're paying and you've got this timeline and you've got this, and you're going to try and tell this guy because you're so frustrated. But the problem is when you come in and you get super offensive with your language or the way you're handling people and you offend their pride. Now that guy's got a decision to make of, is he going to let that offensive pride like begin to just fester? And then it turns into a big blow up instead of, no, 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 come into it. Hey, I've got to talk about some things. I know this probably isn't going to feel good as we have a conversation. Let's just start it with the fact that we both mutually love each other, trust each other. We're going to have a hard conversation right here. That's fine. Let's have the hard conversation. Enter into the hard conversation. Realize that somewhere in that, you're going to probably have to give. They're going to have to give. You're going to have to come to a conclusion. But then on the backside, say, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for being willing to work through this with me. I know all of us want the same thing. Let's just get there together, and be willing to give a little and to take a little. Drew, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's priceless to make sure everybody's happy, right? Because if you insult somebody's ego, it's going to be so hard for them to feel like they should do extra to make sure you get across the finish line. And there's going to be a lot of moments where they're going to have to talk to someone or make an extra call or decide to pull an extra guy from another site to come work on your site to meet deadlines. And all of that's wrapped up in how much do they actually care about the contract, first of all, and then how is their relationship with you? And I mean, we're going to hopefully have a great relationship with our builder, Daryl and San Pedro Yard guys. And we're, working in a central location and in a very small area. So it's easier to stick with one contractor. But I mean, wherever you're building, and at Roasters, we were in one city, so it was like, great. We can use the same contractors all the time if we maintain good relationships with them. They're going to be happy because we're continuously using them, and they're able to, use their subs, and they're able to pay their people. And it's nice when you have a nice cohesive relationship.
And I think it lends itself to, like, I want to continue working with you in the future, right? Like, if you're hard to handle, owner of a coffee shop, if you're hard to handle for the contractor, he's going to just ratchet his price up next time you meet, because there's
Mm.
going to be a minimum threshold to have to deal with your bullshit. I mean, like, he just does not going to want to keep dealing with you. So his price is going to get higher and higher. And then it's like, what's minimum threshold of what I'm going to have to deal with this guy for the next set of time it's going to take me to get through his build? And that's not going to feel good to you. How can you make it so that it's like a mutually beneficial relationship? That's one of our biggest ethoses here for the Collab team, is like, hey, this has to be a mutually beneficial relationship, which means you win and I win. It can't just be, I always win. Like, that's not a good relationship. It's like, how can I give him a win? So like this last week on the call, I told Daryl, hey, how can I throw up some signage for you? We're going to put up a coming soon sign. Like, it's going to be big and bold and huge on the street. Hey, Daryl, how can I wrap your marketing into that? Like, could I put some signage up on our signage? How much is that going to cost me? That's not going to cost me much, but it's going to be a great deal for Daryl, who isn't doing a lot of marketing right now because the guy is building so much. He's got so much going on. It's hard to remember to work on the business when you're working in the business, right? So how can I give him a win that doesn't necessarily cost me a ton? It's just me looking out for him a little bit. And that goodwill, it's going to pay off in dividends, because then Daryl's going to want to help me out in a way that isn't going to cost him a whole lot. But because he has this relationship with this guy in the city, or this relationship with this guy that's another sub, or this guy that he knows that he can refer me to, that's going to help me with the lift on getting products over to the island, like, it's only going to benefit me to treat him well. And it's like a mutually beneficial relationship where we both get to win. Look for wins where you can, in love, in respect, help each other win.
And thank God I have you, Aaron, because I don't always think that way.
Well, I think it's easy for all of us to get into a mode where we're just running and gunning, right? We're just trying to get our thing across the finish line, and we don't always think through, yeah, but how's that feel? Like, how's that going to feel for that person? And everybody wants to win, right? Like it it's gonna affect this person for me to get my way. And if it's always my way, relationships can't just be one way street. Like,
Well,
so just think about,
I'm still learning. I'm still learning. And I mean,
well,
ultimately, at the end of the day, who are you serving? You're serving your community. And a contractor is generally going to be pretty well connected in the community. They're going to know a lot of old clients that they've done buildings for. They're going to have, family members. Their subs are going to have family members, and everybody's going to hear if it goes sour, and that's
yeah.
going to really hurt ultimately your business in the long run, which, we all care about the bottom line, of course, but really keeping nice human relationships nice is very important just for your own sanity and then also for your community's sake.
Yeah. So I think take home as we wrap up our session today is new locations are tough. Like, they're exciting. Everybody gets excited. Drew and I get excited. I will say sometimes I get a little more excited than Drew because Drew knows all the on the ground things he's going to have to handle. But I will say, like, new locations are exciting, but they're also going to be tough, right? It's always also going to be a son of a bitch a little bit. And you just got to come into it knowing it's going to be a mixed bag. The benefit's going to be you have another horse in the race, right? You're going to be able to bring more revenue in. The more you diversify between locations, the less pressure it puts on any one location to have to float your business. That's the take home that you can then invest back into the business. It's only going to be a win in the long run. How can you mitigate pain? I would say the best way you can mitigate pain is have a plan you're executing from. Find good partners that are going to help you get to your goal that you want to. And in all of it, man, love people, like, respect people, because that's only going to be you loving yourself in the end. Because if everything is a drama and everything is a pain point and everything's a hardship, then, like, that's an exhausting way to do business. Like, just take a deep breath, step back. How would I want to be treated in this scenario? And let's all push towards the same goal, and then hold people accountable. Hold people accountable. Don't let it slip. That's a big deal. So, Drew, dude, I love being partners with you, bro. I love the things we're doing. I'm so excited about the third location we're opening. And man, coffee experts, I hope that you enjoyed our show today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us today. For those of you who are looking to become a coffee expert yourself, we offer an incredible, thorough training online for opening your first coffee drive-thru at www.myfirstdrivethru.coffee.